Let me quickly bury her here before someone sees me. The sun of Umueze village always rose gently, painting the thatched roofs gold before the cocks crowed thrice. In the middle of the village stood Motsi Ndukui's compound, known for its laughter, peace, and the smell of roasted yam in the morning breeze. Inside, Nena, his wife, hummed softly as she pounded cocoyam in her mortar. Her skin glistened in the sunlight, smooth and glowing like moonlight water. Beside her, their only daughter, Ezin, sat peeling groundnuts and singing in her childish voice. "Mama, when Papa comes back, he will bring me sugar, eh?" Nena smiled lovingly. "He will bring you sugar and meat, my jewel. Your father never forgets." Indeed, Motsi Ndukui was a good man. His laughter echoed through the village square. He provided for his family, loved his wife dearly, and cherished his little girl as the apple of his eye. Whenever he walked with Ezin to the stream, people often teased, "Motsi Ndukui, your daughter is your twin. She carries her mother's beauty." He would smile proudly, replying, "If beauty could be measured by kindness, my wife and daughter would own the world." Life was peaceful, like a gentle river, flowing smoothly without trouble. But peace in life, they say, never lasts forever. At night, when the moon shone over their compound and the crickets sang, Nena would rest her head on her husband's chest. Yet deep inside, Motsi Ndukui's mind was not at peace. The elders had started whispering, "A man with no son is like a tree with no root." Who will carry Ndukui's name when he is gone? He tried to ignore them, but the words grew heavier each day. The morning drums of Umueze echoed across the hills as Motsi Ndukui sat quietly on the wooden bench outside his hut. The air was thick with the smell of burning firewood, and goats bleated somewhere in the distance. For days, sleep had abandoned him. His eyes were heavy, not from work, but from the burden of tradition. In their community, a man's worth was not measured by his wealth or kindness, but by the number of sons who could bear his name after his death. A man without a son, the elders always said, is like a river that ends before reaching the sea. And though Motsi Ndukui loved Nena with every beat of his heart, the whispers had begun to sting. That evening, his friend Ogwogo, a stubborn elder known for his sharp tongue, stopped by with a gourd of palm wine. They sat under the mango tree, sipping slowly as the night breeze hummed through the leaves. "Ogwogo, Ndukui, my brother, your farm yields plenty. Your barn is full. But tell me, who will inherit all this when your eyes close?" Motsi Ndukui sighed. "Ogwogo, must every man have a son before his name is remembered? My daughter Ezin is kind and wise." Ogwogo shook his head. You speak like a man whose heart has been softened by love. Our people do not count daughters in inheritance. When you are gone, she will marry and carry another man's name. Think wisely, my friend." The words struck Motsi Ndukui like a spear to the chest. That night, he lay awake beside Nena, staring at the thatched roof. He loved her deeply, her voice, her patience, her smile, but the fear of dying without a son grew louder than the crickets outside. When the cock crowed the next morning, he called Nena to sit with him. "Motsi Ndukui, my wife, you have stood by me in every season. You have been good to me and to our home. But our people keep reminding me I have no son. I have made a decision to take another wife, so that my name will not die with me." Nena's heart stopped for a moment. Her hands trembled slightly as she stared into her husband's eyes. She wanted to speak, but no words came out. Tears filled her eyes, but she forced a soft smile. "Nena, if that is what you desire, my husband, I will not fight it. I know the pain of being mocked by the elders. I only pray the new wife brings peace, not sorrow." Motsi Ndukui held her hand and sighed deeply. "You are a woman of gold, Nena. May the gods reward you for your heart." But as he looked into the distance, the wind blew gently through the trees, cold and unsettling, as if the spirits themselves were whispering, Be careful what you wish for, Motsindukwi, for some rivers never forget. The day Ngozi arrived in Umueze Village, the air seemed to change. The birds that usually sang on Ndukwi's rooftop were silent, and the river nearby flowed slower than usual, as though it sensed trouble. Drummers played soft beats to welcome the new bride. Women ululated, and children ran around shouting, "Our master has brought home a new wife." Motsindukwi walked proudly beside his new bride, Ngozi, a young woman with sharp eyes, fine skin, and a smile that never reached her heart. Her beauty was undeniable, but behind those beautiful eyes hid something dark, a heart full of envy. Inside the compound, Nena stood at the doorway, her wrapper tied neatly, her face calm. Though her heart bled, she wore peace like a crown. She stepped forward with grace and smiled warmly. "Nena, welcome, my co-wife. Welcome to our husband's home." She stretched her hands to greet Ngozi, but Ngozi folded her arms, hissed, and turned away. The women nearby gasped. The drums stopped beating. Even the wind seemed to pause. Nena, holding back her shame, whispered softly, "The gods see everything. I will still welcome you, even if your heart rejects peace." From that moment, Ngozi's hatred began to grow. Days passed, and the once joyful home began to lose its warmth. Ngozi walked around like a queen, ordering the servants, mocking Nena's gentle nature. At night, she would whisper into Motsindukwi's ears, "Our husband, be careful of that woman. She looks innocent, but she is using charms to control your heart. That is why you see only her and her daughter." Slowly, her poisonous words began to eat into his mind. He became colder, distracted, and sometimes, without realizing it, he ignored Nena's greetings. Little Ezin noticed it too. One evening, she asked softly, "Mama, did I do something wrong? Papa doesn't smile with me anymore." Nena hugged her close, hiding her tears. "No, my jewel. Sometimes, hearts change when new winds blow. But remember, kindness is stronger than hatred. Never lose your light." Ngozi couldn't bear the sight of Nena's peace or Ezin's innocence. Whenever Motsindukwi showed the little girl affection, Ngozi's chest tightened. She would mutter under her breath, "One day, both of you will learn who the true queen of this house is." Her heart became darker each passing day, and jealousy turned into wicked imagination. She began to plan, silently, carefully, how to remove Nena and her daughter forever. One moonless night, as the crickets sang and everyone slept, Ngozi sat by the firelight, grinding something in a small clay pot. The faint smell of herbs mixed with bitterness filled the air. Her eyes glowed with evil as she whispered, "When the cock crows thrice, peace will leave this compound. Then I will reign." She laughed softly to herself, not knowing that the same river beside the compound was listening. The river that never forgets. The morning sun rose quietly over Umueze Village, but in Motsindukwi's compound, something dark was already stirring. The birds that used to perch on the mango tree no longer sang there. Even the goats refused to sleep near the backyard where Ngozi kept her secret clay pot. That day, Ngozi woke before dawn. Her eyes were swollen from lack of sleep, but her mind was sharp with one thought, to destroy Nena. She moved around the kitchen, pretending to prepare the morning meal. Her movements were calm, calculated, almost graceful, like a snake gliding across cool grass. From her wrapper, she brought out a small pouch made of red fabric. Inside was a grayish powder that smelled faintly of bitter kola and ash, a deadly poison she had received from a herbalist 2 villages away. She poured it gently into Nena's food pot, whispering under her breath, "Let her kindness feed the ground. Let her smile end today." Then she stirred it with a wooden spoon, humming a tune to disguise the trembling of her hands. Later that morning, Nena sat under the mango tree, eating from the same pot Ngozi had prepared. Her daughter, Ezin, laughed beside her, sharing bits of roasted yam. "Mama, when I grow up, I'll cook for you every day," the girl said. Nena smiled weakly. That is all I pray for, my jewel. But as soon as she swallowed her last bite, her hand began to shake. Sweat rolled down her forehead, her lips trembled, and her eyes dimmed. Ezin, water, bring me water, she gasped. Ezin ran to fetch water, but by the time she returned, Nena was on the ground, clutching her stomach in pain. Her cries echoed through the compound, drawing villagers from every direction. Motsi Ndukui ran out in panic. What happened to my wife? Ngozi rushed forward, pretending to be concerned. Maybe the gods are angry. Maybe she ate something wrong, she said, pressing her fake tears. But deep down, she knew the truth. The village medicine man was called, but it was too late. By nightfall, Nena was gone. Her burial took place near the sacred river Miriagagi Eshefu, the river that never forgets. As they lowered her body into the earth, the wind began to blow strangely. The river waves rose and fell like it was morning too. Ezin cried uncontrollably, clutching her mother's head tie. Mama! Wake up! Don't leave me! Motsi Ndukui stood still, numb with grief, unable to speak. And at a distance, Ngozi stood watching, hiding a faint smile behind her wrapper. When everyone left, she knelt near the grave and whispered, Now I am the only queen in this house. Sleep forever, gentle fool. But as she turned to leave, the river water rippled violently, splashing against the bank. A soft voice seemed to whisper in the air. The river remembers, the river never forgets. Ngozi froze for a second, looking around. Then she laughed nervously and walked away. She didn't know it yet, but the river had already begun to watch her. After Nena's death, Umueze village was never the same again. The once lively compound of Motsi Ndukui grew cold and silent. The laughter that used to echo through the evenings was gone. Only Ezin's soft sobs could sometimes be heard from the backyard as she washed her mother's old wrappers or sat alone under the mango tree. Her father tried to stay strong, but grief made him weak. He stopped singing at the farm. He hardly ate. And most nights, he slept outside, staring blankly at the sky. Seeing her father that way broke Ezin's heart. She would whisper to herself, if Mama were here, Papa would smile again. But Mama was gone. And in her place stood Ngozi, the woman whose heart grew darker by the day. Once the mourning period ended, Ngozi showed her true face. She began to treat Ezin like a servant, waking her up before sunrise. Get up, lazy girl. Fetch water from the stream. Sweep the yard. Wash my clothes. Ezin would obey quietly. Sometimes her small hands trembled as she carried heavy water pots, but she never complained. When Motsi Ndukui tried to question Ngozi, she would cry fake tears. I am only training the girl, my husband. If I don't teach her hard work now, she will grow into a useless woman like her mother. And somehow, Motsi Ndukui believed her lies, blinded by guilt and confusion. Weeks later, Ngozi gave Ezin a new task. She began to send her out daily to hawk oranges under the burning sun. Sell all of them before you return, she would say. And if one orange remains, you will not eat in this house tonight. So, every morning, little Ezin tied her mother's old scarf around her head, balanced the orange tray on her small head, and walked barefoot through the dusty roads of Umueze. She would smile at strangers, saying softly, Please, buy sweet orange, very sweet orange. Even when her legs hurt, she pushed herself, because she feared her stepmother's wrath more than the sun. One hot afternoon, Ezin's body could no longer bear the heat. Her feet were dusty, her throat dry, and sweat soaked her wrapper. She found a big mango tree by the roadside and decided to rest a little. The cool breeze lulled her to sleep. When she woke up, her tree was empty, and the money was gone. Her heart pounded. She searched everywhere, crawling on the ground, crying as she checked under leaves and stones. But the money had vanished, stolen by some mischievous village boys who saw her sleeping. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, "What will I tell Mama Ngozi? She will kill me." She carried her empty tray home, trembling. When Ngozi saw her, she didn't even wait to hear the full story. "Where is the money?" she shouted. It was stolen while I slept, Mama Ngozi. I was tired and..." Before the little girl could finish, Ngozi grabbed a wooden plank and struck her hard. "You thief! You useless thing! I knew your mother's spirit still follows you." She hit her again and again. Ezin cried out, begging, "Please, I didn't steal it. Please forgive me." But Ngozi's anger burned hotter. One final blow landed on Ezin's head. She fell to the ground, her eyes wide open, her lips still trembling. Then silence. The plank dropped from Ngozi's hands. She knelt beside the girl, shaking her. "Ezin! Ezin!" But the little girl didn't move. Ngozi froze in terror as the truth hit her. She had killed her husband's only child. She looked around quickly. The compound was quiet. No one had seen her. Fear and guilt filled her heart, but she swallowed them like poison. "No one must ever know," she whispered. That night, she wrapped the small lifeless body in an old cloth, carried it behind the house, and began walking toward the river, the same place where Nena was buried. The moon hid behind the clouds as she dug a shallow grave beside the riverbank. Her hands shook as she covered Ezin's body with sand. "Sleep well, you stubborn child," she muttered, "and let your mother keep you company." As she turned to leave, a cold breeze brushed her neck. She heard faint laughter, soft and eerie, coming from the water. She froze, her heart racing, but when she looked, the river was calm. She hurried home, pretending nothing happened. Night crept over Umueze Village like a dark cloak. The moon hid behind thick clouds, and the forest near the river whispered with strange sounds. It was the kind of night when even brave men locked their doors early, but Ngozi was not afraid. Fear had left her heart long ago, replaced by guilt and madness. She dragged a small bundle wrapped in a faded cloth across the narrow path behind the compound. It was Ezin's body, cold, still, and silent. The same little girl whose laughter once filled the air now lay lifeless in the arms of her murderer. The crickets stopped chirping as Ngozi walked. Even the frogs beside the river seemed to sense something evil approaching. The river, Miriagogi Eshefu, the river that never forgets, flowed quietly, reflecting the faint light of the stars. When she reached the riverbank, she dropped to her knees, panting. Her hands trembled as she dug the earth with a rusty hoe. Every strike of the metal against the ground echoed like thunder in her ears. "You brought this upon yourself," she muttered through clenched teeth. "You should have stayed quiet. You should not have cried." But her voice broke halfway, and tears she didn't expect rolled down her face. For a moment, she hesitated, looking at the little face now covered with dust. Ezin's eyes were still open, as if staring at her killer. Ngozi's breath quickened. She reached down and shut the child's eyes with shaking fingers. "Don't look at me," she whispered hoarsely. "Don't look at me like your mother did." She covered the small body with sand, pressing the earth down until it looked like nothing ever happened. But as she turned to leave, a cold wind blew across the water. The river waves rose slightly, making soft slapping sounds. Then, faintly, she heard a whisper. "Ngozi." She froze. Her heart skipped. She looked around, but no one was there. Only the river flowed, glowing faintly under the clouded sky. She shook her head violently. "It's just the wind, only the wind." But when she took her first step away, she heard it again, clearer this time. "Ngozi, the river remembers." Terrified, she dropped her hoe and ran back to the compound, her wrapper brushing against dry leaves. She didn't look back. By dawn, she had forced herself to appear calm. She fetched water, cooked food, and even sang a song loudly so the neighbors would hear her peaceful voice. When Ngozi Ndukwu returned from the farm that evening, she ran to him, pretending to be worried. "Husband, I have not seen Ezin since morning. I sent her to the market to sell oranges, and she never came back." Ngozi Ndukwu dropped his hoe immediately. "What do you mean she didn't come back? Did you look for her?" "I did. I searched the roads and asked the traders. No one saw her," she said, holding her wrapper to her face as if crying. Villagers gathered as soon as they heard. Some said maybe the child got lost, others whispered that she might have been kidnapped by ritualists. Ngozi Ndukwu's eyes turned red with tears. He called her name till his voice cracked. "Ezin, my daughter, where are you?" For days, he didn't eat. He didn't sleep. He searched every bush path, every stream, every corner of the market. But there was no trace of his child. He wept like a man who had lost everything. And truly, he had. Meanwhile, at night, Ngozi could no longer sleep. Each time she closed her eyes, she saw Ezin's face, covered in sand, staring at her. Sometimes she saw Nena, her co-wife, rising slowly from the river, her wet hair clinging to her pale face. "Ngozi," Nena's voice echoed, soft and haunting. "You killed us. The river remembers." Ngozi would wake up screaming, drenched in sweat, clutching her chest. Her husband began to ask questions, but she would lie again. "It's just bad dreams. Maybe I think too much about Ezin." But she knew the truth. The voices were not dreams. The spirits of the innocent had begun to rise from the river. The nights in Umueze grew darker than before. The air turned heavy, and the sound of crickets seemed distant and uneasy. Even the dogs in Ngozi Ndukwu's compound began to bark at nothing, staring toward the river as if they saw what humans could not. Ngozi had changed. Her once proud posture was gone. Her eyes were swollen, her face pale. She barely ate, barely slept. She jumped at every sound, the creak of the door, the rustle of leaves, even the cry of a baby from a neighbor's hut. Because every night, when silence fell and the river began to hum softly, she heard their voices. The first time, it was a dream, or so she thought. She found herself standing at the riverside. The moonlight reflected on the water like silver glass. Then she saw them, Nena and Ezin, standing side by side. Their white wrappers glowed in the darkness. Water dripped from their hair, forming small circles around their feet. Nena's voice was calm but chilling. "Ngozi, you took what was never yours. You fed my husband's sorrow and gave my child to the earth." Ezin's small voice followed. "Mama Ngozi, why did you hit me?" "I was tired. I didn't steal." Ngozi screamed and fell to her knees in the dream, covering her ears. "Go away. Leave me alone." But the river roared, and before she could move, a cold wave splashed over her. She woke up soaked with sweat, trembling, her heart racing. From that night, the dreams came again and again. Sometimes she heard footsteps outside her door, sometimes she saw wet footprints leading from the river to her doorstep. Each night, the whispers grew louder. "Confess, Ngozi, confess. The river remembers." Desperate for peace, she traveled secretly to a native doctor's hut in the neighboring village. The old man's skin was wrinkled like dried bark, and cowries hung around his neck. He looked at her silently, then spoke in a deep voice. "You do not need to tell me your name. The spirits that follow you already whispered it to me." Ngozi shivered. "Please, help me. They won't let me rest. I see them in my dreams. I hear them by the river. Tell me what to do." The man shook his head slowly. "The river that never forgets has remembered you. It holds the tears of the innocent you buried by its bank." Her lips trembled. "Can I appease it? Can I make it forget?" The old man's eyes darkened. There are only two paths. Either you confess your sin before your husband and the community, or the river will claim you itself. Ngozi's voice cracked. Please. There must be another way. I can pay. I can bring goats, money, anything. But the native doctor rose slowly and turned away. No sacrifice can silence truth. The blood of a child and a pure woman cannot be covered by cowries. Go home. The river has already chosen your punishment. Ngozi staggered out of the hut, her heart pounding. Her feet felt weak. When she returned home, nothing seemed normal anymore. She began talking to herself. Sometimes she would pour water on the floor, whispering, "Please, don't be angry. I didn't mean to kill you." She stopped cooking. She stopped going to the market. Her laughter turned to tears without warning. At night, she would wake Motsindukwi, shaking him violently. "They are here. They are here in the compound," she cried. "Who?" her husband asked in confusion. "Ngozi, what's wrong with you?" But before he could get an answer, she would run outside barefoot, screaming toward the river. "Leave me alone. I said I'm sorry." Neighbors began to whisper. Some said madness had caught her. Others said the river had finally remembered. One stormy evening, as thunder rolled across the sky, Ngozi heard the voices again, clearer than ever. "Ngozi! Ngozi! We gave you time, and you refused." The wind howled. The trees bent. Ngozi covered her ears and shouted, "Stop it! Stop calling me." But the voices only grew louder, blending with the rumbling river outside. Then she heard a new sound, a roar, deep and angry, rising from the water itself. She rushed out into the rain, her wrapper clinging to her skin, her hair wild. The lightning flashed, revealing the swollen river, turning and twisting as if alive. She fell to her knees by the riverbank and screamed, "What do you want from me? I'm sorry. Please forgive me." But the wind carried her words away, and the river replied with thunder. The earth beneath her feet began to shake. And just before the next lightning struck, she heard one final whisper in the storm. "Ngozi, the river forgets nothing." That night, Umueze Village could not sleep. The rain had started at sunset and refused to stop. The wind howled like a wounded animal, and thunder cracked above the sky again and again, shaking the roofs of the huts. But deep inside the noise of the storm, something else was stirring, something ancient and angry. The river, Miri Agogi Eshefu, was rising. Its waves slammed against the banks like a heart beating in fury. Trees by the water's edge bent low as if bowing before a spirit too powerful to resist. The villagers whispered from their windows, "The river is angry tonight, something has offended it." They didn't know that the reason sat trembling inside her hut, eyes wide, hair wet, heart pounding. Ngozi sat in the dark, hugging her knees. Her eyes darted to the door every few seconds. The rain hissed outside like voices whispering her name. Every thunderclap sounded like footsteps approaching. Every flash of lightning showed her shadow trembling on the wall. Suddenly, she heard it again, it's soft, familiar, but terrifying. "Ngozi." She covered her ears. "Go away. Leave me alone." But then she saw them, two figures, standing in the doorway, drenched in rain. Nena and Ezin. Their white wrappers were soaked, their eyes cold, their faces calm. Ezin's small voice broke the silence. "Mama Ngozi, why did you kill me?" Ngozi crawled backward, her body shaking violently. "I didn't mean to. I didn't. It was a mistake." Nena stepped forward, her voice like the rumble of the river itself. "The gods gave you a home. You turned it into a graveyard. You poisoned love and buried innocence. Now, the river that never forgets has come for you." Ngozi screamed and ran out into the storm, barefoot, her wrapper clinging to her body. The rain was heavier than ever. The thunder roared like drums of judgment. Ngozi ran through the muddy path toward the riverbank, her feet sinking into wet soil. The lightning flashed again, and the river looked monstrous, swelling beyond its boundaries. She fell to her knees at the edge, crying, "Please, forgive me. I'll confess. I'll tell them everything. Just let me live." But the wind howled louder, drowning her voice. The water began to circle like a whirlpool, glowing faintly in the darkness. She tried to stand, but her feet were suddenly stuck, sinking deeper into the wet earth. She screamed, clawing at the ground, "Help! Somebody help me!" No one heard her. The river rose higher, waves splashing onto her legs. Then she saw them again, Nena and Ezin, standing on the surface of the water, calm and still. Their eyes were like mirrors reflecting her fear. "Nena, you buried us beside this river, Ngozi. Now the river buries you." With that, the ground beneath her gave way. Ngozi screamed as she was pulled under by the swirling water. Her hands reached out, but no one was there to hold her. The river swallowed her whole. For a moment, everything was silent. Then, just as quickly, the river grew calm again, flat, quiet, as though nothing had happened. When dawn finally came, the sky was pale and heavy with mist. Villagers gathered by the riverbank, staring in shock. Ngozi's slippers floated on the surface, along with her scarf. But her body was nowhere to be found. Motsi Ndukwi stood still, trembling as he stared at the water. Tears ran down his tired face. He whispered, "First my wife, then my child, now my second wife. What curse have I brought upon myself?" The oldest elder of the village placed a hand on his shoulder and said quietly, "It is no curse, Ndukwi. The river does not take the innocent. It remembers those who bury truth beneath its sand." And that morning, the villagers named that place, Aichimiri no Echeta, the river that never forgets. The storm had passed. The next morning, Umueze village woke to a strange calm. The sky hung low and grey, and the air smelled of wet earth and sorrow. The river flowed quietly now, as though nothing had happened, but every villager who walked past it that morning could feel it, something had been settled. By midday, word had spread, Ngozi was gone. Her slippers had been found floating near the same riverbank where Nena and her daughter had once vanished. Women gathered in small circles, whispering, "The river has taken her. It is the hand of the gods. The river never forgets." When Motsi Ndukwi heard the news, he rushed to the river. He stood silently, staring at the water that had taken all he loved. For the first time, he felt truly old. Behind him, the village native doctor appeared, his walking stick tapping gently against the earth. "Motsi Ndukwi," he said in a low voice, "the spirits have spoken. Your wife Ngozi confessed to no one, but the river knows everything. She poisoned Nena and killed your child." Motsi Ndukwi turned slowly, his lips trembling. What did you say?" The old man nodded sadly. "Your first wife and daughter called her name before the gods. The river judged her." Motsi Ndukwi sank to the ground, his hands clutching his head. Tears streamed down his face as he cried out, "I brought evil into my own house. I allowed greed for a son to blind me." The villagers stood around him in silence. No one dared to speak. Only the rustling of the trees and the steady flow of the river answered his cries. 3 days later, the elders gathered for a cleansing ritual. They slaughtered a white cock by the riverside, poured palm wine into the water, and offered kola nuts to appease the spirits. The oldest elder raised his staff and spoke aloud. "Miri Agagi Eshefu, the river that never forgets, we thank you for revealing truth. May our village learn from this and walk in peace." The river responded with a soft, gentle wave, as if accepting the offering. Afterward, Motsi Ndukwi built a small shrine beside the river where both Nena and Ezin were buried. He planted 2 white lilies there, one for the wife who loved him, and one for the daughter who never stopped smiling. Each morning, he would kneel there and whisper, "Forgive me, my beloved ones. May your spirits rest, for justice has been served." Years passed, and the story of the three souls became a warning to all. Mothers told it to their children by moonlight, travelers told it in faraway towns. The villagers would point at the calm river and say, "That is Miri Agogi Eshefu, the river that never forgets. It punishes the wicked and protects the innocent." Some say when the moon is full and the night is silent, you can still hear a child's laughter near the water, followed by the soft hum of her mother's song. They are not haunting the river, they are guarding it, reminding us that truth never dies.